feel more professional with them on. I feel like I'm legitimized in making a podcast about horror movies this way.
It does. It kind of gives us, like, 'cause we are just most usually just four dudes in a basement screaming at each other.
Yep. This
is true.
Largely about horror movies, sometimes about life and body horrors.
These are true.
So the headphones make us feel better about just screaming at each other.
Like we have a reason.
And you're matching, which is nice.
Yes.
We're matching. Yeah, I guess that comes with just like horror movie fan people is you just like wear black hoodies and stuff.
I found a yellow one.
Yes.
Finally.
Yeah.
Finally. Been searching everywhere for the yellow hoodie.
On Halloween, I don't think he's been to Punk Rock Horror Night, but my brother comes to I blew this story. This guy comes to the house with a rubber alien mask and a trick-or-treat shirt, like the movie.
Yeah.
Like, oh, fuck. And then the guy's just going, to me, like, he recognized
Oh, no
me
way.
on the shirt. I'm like, I'm not on the shirt. We're like, fuck with the guy. He's like, gotta have a picture. And like, and then Kristen's like, wait till your brother. And I'm like, this is my brother.
Yeah, I was like, wait till your brother gets this picture. He'll never stop laughing. And it was Darren.
It's a really good one because that would be really fucking cool. Because I've seen a few trick or treat shirts over the last few years. They've become things.
Well, yeah, because which company started? It was Fright Rags. Fright Rags
might have
kind of
been
like
Fright Rags that
reignited
started-
brand a little bit.
But
Bring those
Glenn's
back.
never on the shirts.
That's bullshit.
That's true.
That's actually a shame.
That's bullshit,
Yeah.
is what it is.
It's absolutely.
We gotta
your
change
movie.
that.
Yeah, we'll make a shirt. We can make a shirt.
Yeah,
Give me
there
a
you
heart. What do you get? A press? I don't know how you do it. Do you
Our-
stitch it? We'll stitch it.
Roger
Ourselves.
steals the movie. He's the best thing in it.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Stitch Glen
we
Morgan's
experienced that
face.
firsthand.
Love
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Welcome back to the SHUDcast! I'm Curtis,
And I'm Cody.
I'm Austin.
And I'm Lucas.
and we are graced with a couple of lovely Yuletide gifts this evening. We have writer-director Glen Morgan, actor, producer, writer,
Just, yes.
yes, Kristen Cloke. Woo! Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Cody, you guys met at a mutual friend's horror screening that happens every now and then.
Every monthly. I was very excited to meet Glen and Kristen the first time. Our friend had told me that you guys were coming, and it was immediately exciting because big fan of all of your work, but particularly the film we're going to talk about tonight, and also Trick or Treat, the film that we were talking about just now.
Well, we vote.
We do
Everybody votes.
We vote.
And I was feeling like being one of the original members, I was like the UN Security Council where I could veto Trick or Treat, which I did a lot, but then got overridden.
I think you vetoed it every time that it got brought up because
Every
I'm pretty
time.
sure Mike asked to watch it every time that we talked about it.
I know. How about a year ago we watched Black Christmas?
We did. A year ago, we did watch Black Christmas.
Amazing. I was unfortunately not at that screening.
You were
I
not
missed that
available
one as well.
I think Lucas, weren't you?
I was there.
Lucas
Yeah.
was there.
That's about it, though. I think.
Yeah, we're the horror movie podcast that discusses the films that freak you out and the friendships that are even freakier. Hence the body horror we sometimes get into. It's our body horror. That's what
our
it
own
is.
bodies. As
We love the
we
movies
grow.
about body horror, but we talk about our own sometimes.
Yeah, check this out.
It's 30 minutes of that, and then we talk about movies.
There's a lot of amateur dermatology.
You go talk. I'm going to eat those cookies.
Amateur dermatology.
Very quickly. Like, do you guys recognize this? And we show our feet to each other. And
Yeah.
wonder.
Does this look like a thing? It's a thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow. But that's good that you have people to check your things
It
with.
is
We
good.
do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody needs like a group of people to check your things against, right?
Yes. Because insurance is hard to come by, so we have
Yeah.
to trust
Yeah,
ourselves.
Oh yeah, we just cut stuff off each other too. I mean,
Yeah,
it's expensive.
that's good.
So you
Yeah,
just
it's good.
handle it.
Our own biopsies. It works.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. But you haven't met your deductible. You've got friends.
Exactly.
That's what friends are for.
Yes.
In America, that's what
Oh,
friends are
boy.
for. But we figured we'd eschew most of the body showing for
Yes.
this evening.
We'll be on our best
Thank
behavior.
you.
I was kind of interested in what was going on.
We'll be on our best behavior.
That'll be for the top tier of the Patreon. We can get into that with you
Okay,
guys.
fantastic.
But we'd love to know. We'd love to get into the origins of where y'all come from as filmmakers and creators. Clearly, we are all here for horror movie purposes, but whatever it may be, we're interested in like the thing that got you to do what you wanted, where you are today, like what you wanted to do? Like, was there a moment, a movie, a thing that got you here, you think?
Your story. You go first. I want to hear what you have to say.
Specific, like an inspiration or a thing?
Yeah, either or.
No, it was the Universal horror movies.
Okay.
And the Marx
Fantastic.
Brothers, George Carlin, mash all those up together, and then getting older, Hitchcock, Exorcist, The Thing, Omen, Rosemary's Baby, all those, which is counter to what we watch primarily
Yeah.
at our horror night, which is, but I loved all that stuff too, Phantasm, all those things, that's why I'm here.
How old were you when you first started watching like the Universal monster movies?
Well, I grew up. My brother, who's a great writer too, we lived in Syracuse, New York, until I was like 15. And every Saturday at 1, there was a monster movie matinee, and it was like the Dr. Iniquity and his assistant Opal, who was the weatherman.
Amazing.
And so they'd have this like, I don't know if it's Creature Black Lagoon music, up on the Psycho house, a model with dry ice, and then you'd get in there and they'd have a story, and then they would show Dracula, the Wolfman, or something like that. And I was like not out playing baseball until that was over.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's and then we got dropped off with my uncles, and so back then you'd see like the Birds on NBC TV and stuff like that. It was just like so pretty young.
Yeah.
Sure. I think that's probably the same for all of us too. We've talked about this a few times, right?
We have, yeah.
Yes.
Through, I believe, most of our parents, Universal stuff.
Very young.
Vincent Price was big in my house growing
Yep.
up and still is there. So
Yep, I was a Frankenstein house.
Yeah.
I easily saw that before I was 5 years old. And then just never stopped. I just went from there.
only dug deeper.
The abominable Dr. Phibes.
Oh yeah, man.
They were like, even my brother when we were little, were like, I'm glad we went to that, but what was Dad doing taking us to that?
Oh man, seeing that in the theater when that came out, that must have been so much fun. I love that one. That one's so good.
I don't think I know the Dr. Phibes.
It's like the combo of like Frankenstein and Vincent Price.
Yeah.
Basically.
Okay.
It's great.
When we're done with this, go watch it.
Go watch Dr. Phibes?
Yeah, and then there's a sequel.
There is a sequel. I don't think the sequel's
I have not
nearly as
seen.
strong.
Is he still abominable?
No.
Or does he have a different adjective? Now he's the regal Dr.
regal.
Phibes.
Kristen, what about you?
I grew up here. I grew up in Los Angeles. I had people in my family that were, in the business. It was always sort of this kind of, there was a sense growing up in Los Angeles that it's sort of a way of being. And I was kind of a shy kid, but I was always also the kid who was always performing for everybody. I would write the play and get everyone in the neighborhood to, do it with me. And I was, re-choreographing all of Grease for with all the neighborhood kids. And my grandmother lived in Northridge, and she had a lot of bamboo around her property, and she would cut the pieces of bamboo, and I would put plates around the top and decorate them so they could be the other characters in the play. And I would put on these plays and I had all the bamboo people. So I was like always that kid. I was pretty shy, but I always wanted to be, writing stuff, producing stuff, acting and stuff, performing. I was like, when I grow up, I'm definitely going to be, a singer or an actor, or, I just thought, I have a terrible singing voice, so that didn't work out. But, yeah, I always wanted to, I think that I always wanted to do it. And then as I got older, I was like, well, maybe I'm not going to make it. Maybe that's not a good profession. And then when I got to college, I started doing a bunch of theater, and then was cast in the leads, even though I wasn't a theater major. I was writing an English major, but at school. So, and then in my third year of school, I got an agent and started working right away. So I started working when I was like 21.
Amazing. What was the first stuff that you were working
I was cast as the lead in a movie with Billy Zane, and
Yes.
and
Look at these
Yes.
four faces.
no,
Hell yeah.
I know. I feel like I feel good about saying it to the four of you. I feel like you will find this movie and be like, "What is this?" It's a movie called Megaville. It actually had a really great cast. It was like Grace Zabriskie and
Oh, hell
Daniel
yeah.
J. Travanti and Billy Zane and me.
Incredible.
Yeah.
That's the best of
Incredible.
all.
It's called what again?
Megaville. And
Megaville.
I had the best. It's the best opening line still that I've ever said in the movie, and it was, "You've got a gun, I've got a bomb. One false move, and we both go to hell with our own luggage." Because I had the bomb in a piece of luggage,
Hell yeah.
and I still remember it.
Wow.
I just always thought it was such a great,
And
and
Glenn's been trying for years to up that one.
yeah. Yeah, the director was like a Swiss German guy, and so he had that kind of cadence. It was kind of like a Swiss German noir science fiction thing. So it's really wacky. I think I've only seen it one time, but my grandfather loved it and watched it over and over again because it was like his kind of sci-fi. It was like one of those wacky sci-fi movies. But
God, and Billy Zane.
yeah,
It's incredible.
I
yeah.
feel like that's from my childhood at all times. So I think about I always go to the the Phantom?
Phantom.
Yeah.
This was like early in his career. It was like right after
Yeah.
Deadcom.
Oh wow. Okay.
Was that pre? I was like, it feels Lynchian as you're describing it. The term that gets used far too often, but like because he was notably on Twin Peaks a little bit after that, so it feels like this.
I think not on purpose.
Okay. Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was on purpose, but
Yeah.
I don't know. We should go back and watch it sometime. I think I've probably only seen it once, but I remember it being like, I remember when I was doing it, I didn't
We've got
understand
it
it.
here. No.
And we're going to watch all of it now. Billy, come on out.
I think he probably doesn't have it on his resume.
That's incredible. And so, did you find yourself gravitating toward any particular genre or thing? Because we've obviously seen you in a few horror movies, and that's where a lot of people know you from. Was it a conscious decision, you think, of yourself?
No, I think I just was trying to earn a living, but I would get cast a lot as, especially after Glen and I met and worked together on a show called Space Above and Beyond, where I played a Marine Corps captain in space, and so I was the tough guy, and I think that I probably lend myself to being the tough guy, and I think when Glen and I started working together, he has written a lot of stuff for me because, I fit that part, and I don't know.
Either is killed or goes crazy.
In everything that he's done, yeah.
Every single thing.
Well, because I trust her,
Yeah.
and it's a hard thing to do. And so her parents, especially her mom, this kind of hippie, was like watching this stuff. Her Destiny and Final Destination went on like twice as long. Sure. And her dad was like, "Oh my god."
Well, it's funny when I think one of the first times that I went to Tim's with my wife, we walked in and my wife saw you and she looked at me and she goes, "That's the teacher from Final Destination."
That's so cute.
Well, because like that movie in particular, right? Like that, that whole series, but particularly 1 through 3, those were on frequent rotation when I was growing up. Well, I can remember watching 1 for the first time.
Yeah, that might have been. I mean, I remember owning that VHS, so that was a big deal for me. The first Final Destination, so that was right in the sweet spot. We were of that age. We were 12, 13-ish. Just watching the shit out of that movie. We hadn't seen anything like it before. It was incredible. Still is
Incredible and like to this day scarring. Right, like some of those scenes, like you can't. I can't do certain things without going. That's. I've seen this in that movie before. Here's what happened. Yeah, good. There you go.
But I think it's a fun movie too.
It's so much fun.
Yeah, it's.
I was a very soft boy when that movie came out, so it was a lot for me initially. But then I went back to it and I was like, okay, this rules.
That's nice though.
it was yesterday for Lucas.
Yeah.
but he came around to it.
Grown a lot today. I'm proud of it.
I would have never seen it had I not been in it. So.
Yeah. So you guys started working on the sci-fi show. What was that called again?
It's called Space Above and Beyond.
Space Above and Beyond.
And I mean, it's one of those things that show is one of those things that not a lot of people know about it, but if you know about it, it's like your favorite thing. You know, it was a really great show. It was a really, and we're still friends with a lot of the people that we worked with. In fact, one of the people that we worked with just passed away this week, and we're just sort of rocked by it. So everybody was still kind of close. Yeah.
I was actually recently introduced to that program.
Oh.
And I was really excited when I was reading the synopsis. Tim told me about it.
Oh, yeah,
And I was
yeah.
reading about it, and I was like, oh, it sounds so awesome. And I was trying to find it. And very difficult to find. But I did find I was very disappointed immediately because somebody put all of it on YouTube.
Right.
But it's all AI remastered, it says.
Oh,
How does that?
And I was like, what does that mean?
What the hell does that mean?
I don't know. I'm assuming it's just like some
Is that
sort
where
of
they
like,
put that
They
weird
probably-
filter on it?
something like
They
that.
probably
Yeah.
up-resed it.
I think it's how they like to skirt like copyright. Is they'll put this weird sort of AI sheet, or you'll see this like wipe go across. Have you seen this?
We got screwed all the time. We framed anticipating high def.
Oh, no shit.
So
Okay.
it should all, and then it's like we worked on another show called Millennium, and they won't stream it because Jim Wong and I put in so much licensed music. So
interesting.
like Space had a lot of X and Johnny Cash,
Yeah.
and
they
Sex
didn't-
Pistols,
And at the rights at the time weren't probably all media. It was just like limited to
That's
a certain
right.
set. Yeah.
right, and on Millennium they were trying to lighten it up, and so we had Lance Henriksen was all into Bobby Darin, and so it's
Oh, wow.
prohibitive, and so that's on that. But then when that show lasted a season, and Jim Wong and I went back to the X-Files, I said to Chris Carter, I'm like, the cast of Space Above Beyond got screwed, and so the 4 episodes of the X-Files we're writing is for each one of the cast. And so Kristen played this
amazing.
person with multiple personalities who was in a kind of Branch Davidian-ish cult. And if you haven't seen that, her performance is incredible.
No, one of my regrettable black spots in my viewing history is I just missed X-Files, or like it was one of those things that was on, Fox Friday at 10. I was like, just wasn't able to catch it at that time, and I haven't gone back to it. But that sounds incredible.
And when I watched it, whenever my parents weren't watching me,
Yeah.
I was watching X-Files.
Everybody says that.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And then more recently, I don't know, probably in the last like 5-6 years, maybe a little bit more, my wife and I went through all of it for the first time. I'd never done all of it.
Oh.
Felt like it took a long time to do all of it.
It's a lot of episodes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So there's a whole bunch.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch.
I feel like it was several years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
TV seasons used to be
Yeah.
proper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
24 episodes.
Yeah.
Long,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I would watch Star Trek Next Generation with my mom, and those are like 30 episode seasons of 45 minutes, most of them boring as much as I love it. And so you go back and you're like, God, we used to do this every week?
Yeah,
For years?
I regrettably have not watched the X-Files show yet. But I remember when the movie came out, I went to see it, and I had to leave because my friend who I was with got scared.
Yeah.
And I was really pissed off. I was not scared and wanted to know what was happening.
But that's
going
such a
on with
kid
those
thing,
beats?
isn't
I
it?
know.
Like, my friend's always ruining it for me.
I know. I never spoke to him again. I don't know where he is.
Damn.
This is true. This is true. I don't
Yeah.
have time for that.
Wrote him off forever.
Yeah, you're gonna make me eat that ticket price. I didn't buy it. I was a kid, but whoever paid for the ticket, they ate that price,
Right.
and I won't stand for that.
Oh, dang. I've told this story to these guys before, but I was that kid for Blade when it came out. I wanted to see it. My mom let me see it with a friend and his parents who would go and take him to see it. Got in there, got sick immediately, had to leave, which forced them to also leave. So I was that
At the
kid.
blood scene,
At the blood scene, yeah.
you guys see, I would never talk to you again.
Yeah, I didn't talk to him. I don't think.
Well, and this happened to me with a friend where the friend got scared in the movie, but for some reason, I don't know why this happened, but I didn't have to leave the movie. All I know is that
just
my
left you there?
dad got up with the friend, left the theater, and then sometime later my dad came back. I don't know what happened to the kid.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
My dad was great because he took me to see Deliverance. He took me to see
Holy
Dirty
shit.
Harry and the
Amazing.
Wild Bunch, but then
Yeah.
we'd always talk about it.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's crucial, right? It's like
Yeah,
often if whoever brings you, either you're left alone to your devices completely, which is its own thing, or your parents would talk to you about it, or not, and then there's a divide with what they let you see and don't because you don't have the conversation.
Right, and we also had the benefit of like my 2 older kids, who Kristen's very close. They were like at the Final Destination set, so they just see her buried in the floor with dropping knives on her.
Right.
Any movie they saw, they were like, "How they do that?"
Okay.
And just
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
But
they
there was
knew it
still
pretend.
plenty of movies. I mean, because that's Glen's theory that if we talk about it after, then they won't be scarred for life. But not too long ago. I mean, our younger two, we have two sets, the older kids and then the younger kids. And the younger kids, I walked in, and they're in college now. So, but it was, they were preteens. They were not teenagers. And I came in, and I walked through the room, and Glen was showing them Blue Velvet, and I was like,
Man.
absolutely no, we're not, because I'm not talking about this. We're not doing it. That's hard no.
I don't think I could unpack that today.
That was the only one that I was like, no. We're not Blue Velvet. No.
That's fair.
We just waited for her to leave.
Yeah. Probably that's true. But.
That's how my house was. My parents had very different views on what I could see. My dad was obviously much more liberal. But we would always talk about things after. We'd go see movies and we'd talk about it. I mean, they both work in the film industry, so I think that helps
Right.
too.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I had a similar thing where I
For sure.
never got too upset because I always knew to some degree that
Right.
these were people just making a thing.
Right.
If it was really bad, I can't think of it. I would warn them, or it was like what my dad always did, and wasn't a film guy really, but to try to give a context. So, like if you're showing our daughter Rosemary's Baby, you'd go, okay, this came pre-Watergate, but there's also a lot in this movie about women's rights. Mm-hmm. Like, and so then they're kind of prepared, and the horror or anything that's going to upset them, they're prepared for and has a justification of why it's in there.
Right.
Sure, and further context to just perhaps even make the movie in some ways makes them focus less on the horror, on the maybe the direct or overt horror, and more analyze why the horror is there. Right. Yeah, that's fascinating. I can't say that I remember my dad doing that with me.
No, I don't think he did.
No, I don't think he did.
Because my dad was. We're ruining this podcast because
I
it's
know.
like we're not looking at body horror. That's very intellectual. Well, my dad would say when watching Frankenstein, he'd go, "That came out in 1931. Electricity had really only been around 30 years."
Yeah.
And so when you watch it, then some of that cheese ball that you can't help with
Sure.
is cool.
Oh, I love it.
Because you can imagine what it would be like for my grandmother to be watching that.
Yeah.
It puts it into context.
It was 5 years after people seeing a train coming at them and people running out of the fucking theater, So
That being said, all four of our kids have a great film knowledge.
Yeah.
And two are in the sciences and two are in film. But they all are equally, well versed in film and really smart, and the way that they watch films is really, I always learn something when I talk to them about movies. So,
Do they want to be in film too?
our two daughters are in film.
Okay.
The youngest is still in college. She's going to go next semester and go to Prague to do a semester, of filmmaking.
Oh, amazing.
incredible.
And then our older daughter is in the art department, and she's in production design.
Chelsea's always there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, hell
Chelsea.
yeah.
Yeah, you've met Chelsea. And our older son is getting his PhD in microbiology, and our younger son is
Look at something for me.
undergrad. yeah.
We should have him on.
He can tell you anything you need to know about your gut bio. Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm sorry. What was the other son?
He's psychology.
Oh, amazing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that would smarten the show up a little bit for just us
Yeah,
hooligans.
we can't have that.
But no, we're here to talk about body parts on screen. But getting closer to the film that we're going to be talking about here tonight, Final Destination came out in 2000. Glen, was that your kind of? Did you anticipate where you and James Wong, Jim, who directed the film, where did that start? And did you anticipate being? Obviously, you started with Trick or Treat and writing that and starring in it, where your kind of horror career would go from there, and that being...
No, our first movie was this movie called The Boys Next Door with Charlie Sheen and Max Caulfield, that Penelope Spheris directed.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But in the script form, Crispin Glover got a hold of it and read it over the phone to Nicolas Cage, who was doing Birdie. And the producer was like, don't know who they are.
Well,
And then when I worked with Crispin, he told me that.
Oh gosh.
That story. I'm like, oh god, well, yeah. So that was like kids on a killing spree, and and then Trick or Treat was a fluke, and then we worked on 21 Jump Street, and they showed Commish with Chickless, and it was just, and then you end up on X-Files, and that was like, because there hadn't been any television horror.
Yeah.
Everybody starts coming around looking for those writers, and that's how we did Trick or Treat. And then we made this movie, The One.
Oh, sorry. We have to pause there for a second. The One, we talk about The One on this show more than I hope any other podcast does. And Lucas in particular.
I watched it today. Today.
No.
And I caught something that I really hadn't caught before. So it's in this scene. We'll put this on camera, viewers. It's from this scene very early in the film, and he pulls out the little watch thing. Okay, and then it turns into Destination Final. Is that?
Of course.
Of course. Was that an in the moment decision? Like, we could do something fun and cute.
That would be a post production type of deal.
Okay.
Or the graphic guy, and you would have said, "I do this so it's inside."
Okay, cool. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All of us big fans of The One. I remember seeing The One in theaters with my dad.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah,
because you're a big fan of that movie Triple R, where there's a scene where he lifts a motorcycle. Well, Jet Li lifts two.
Yes.
In this one, okay. So that movie stinks
and he
now.
smashes Doug Savant, who was the bad guy in Trick or Treat.
Oh, amazing.
Oh wow,
that's incredible. Didn't even put those together.
Yeah, he was the bully. Doug's a friend of ours, and Jim plays cards with him or something. So that was an additional scene, and we get Doug. Let's smash him with a motorcycle.
Oh, incredible.
As one does, yeah.
Gosh darn. Yeah, we end up talking. Somehow we talk about, you just got to get to the point where there's 1,000 people fighting Jet Li up to the top of a mountain. That just ends up where we talk.
Yeah, that's right.
Our talking point on the show often. Anyway. Yes, but then.
So The One.
Mm-hmm.
Across where we filmed that's like the biggest stage at Universal.
Oh, no shit.
And across the stage, it's now been flattened. It's where they filmed the original Phantom of the Opera.
Okay.
And so they were doing
the haunted one.
Yes.
The haunted stage.
But I didn't know that. And so then we go, hey, our stunt guy, they were doing pickups for like the Mummy or the Scorpion King. And The Rock, the one was written for The Rock.
Oh, no way.
Which
no shit.
I liked it was, they went from like the dialogue, a page was just all dialogue, and then when Jet came in, it was just like one sentence.
Yeah.
And they took away a lot of the humor because they didn't want to do humor. That's my gripe. But we go over there, and it's like a Egyptian cave with sconces and smoke, and nobody we're looking for is there, and I'm kind of going, man, I feel really weird. This is really, ugh. And I thought it was the smoke and stuff. And then when we left and walked outside, it felt good. I'm like, Gary, the stunt guy, I'm like, did you feel weird in there? Like they got toxins or something. He goes, nope. And then later, I was told that's the haunted
stage.
place.
Okay,
yeah.
wow. That's fun.
Got ghosted.
Yeah.
That's
But
incredible.
I think they say, because I was like, in there, I didn't know. And then I'm like looking around and I see that white opera boxes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody had to tell me, they've been there since the 20s.
Yeah, I remember being a kid and being on the backlot tour, and at that point they were still like letting you get out and like look around a little bit, right? And I remember that was when I learned that was the haunted one. Yeah, or feeling that was like the coolest thing in the world as a child.
It is.
It is the coolest thing.
Georgetown.
And now I'm just lamenting the world where we don't have The Rock as the one, even though Jet Li is the one is its own thing. But like, that's
rules
a different
entirely.
That's a different timeline.
Yeah, I'm just imagining what that movie, how that movie everything about that movie, especially like when you're saying there's humor in it too.
There was a lot of humor, and I think Jet is very funny, but they would just go no jokes.
Wild.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, 'cause you probably had to deal with a lot of Hong Kong politics to do that. Yes or no?
Well, what was great was he had a fight team. Corey Ewan, who is Wu Ping's cousin.
Oh yeah, okay.
And Jonathan. I really apologize, blanket on his Asian name, but he just won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor on anywhere.
Everything Ever All Once.
Kiwi Kwan.
Yes, yeah. He was the liaison between the Western and the Eastern fight team, right? Because he'd been in Goonies and stuff.
So,
Right.
The best guy.
amazing.
Really good guy. That was interesting.
That is interesting.
Hell yeah. And so we get to what I assume is kind of the atomic bomb for your guys' career at the time is Final Destination. It just kind of takes you guys off. And then from there, what got you to direct your first movie?
Well, I think, you know, that I wanted to direct, and the thing is, if you're going to direct a remake IP, and when I was a kid, I loved Willard.
Mm-hmm.
And was able later to work with Bruce Davidson, who's like
amazing.
everything you want. He's a great guy, and Kristen was driving, and we're on Robertson, and it just Willard.
Okay.
And then Jim and I optioned it, and New Line, who had made Final Destination, goes, yeah, and went through a lot of people. And I guess New Line executives are going, Jim and Glen would like Crispin Glover, and another actor's agent goes, oh my God. If that movie was made with Crispin Glover, I would go see it every day.
Every day.
And so New Line goes, okay. And so they made Willard, and it didn't do that great. And I thought, I'm really proud of the movie. But then you go to do Final Destination 3, and I swore I would never do a remake, but it's hard to get a film, especially if your first one didn't do too well. And so Marty Adelstein, who had been Jim and I, our agents, came to me and said, do you know that movie Black Christmas? Would you want to do that? And I was like, yeah. If I meet Bob Clark,
Okay.
and he's okay with it.
Hell yeah. So here we are.
fantastic.
We're going to talk about
I did that for you
Christmas.
because I knew
That's a writer right there for you. So here we are. We're at the movie at hand tonight called Black Christmas 2006. And I believe Cody has informed you of a thing that we do when we start our
Yes, and
discussions.
There's no way. They go through the plot. Each person gets
15 seconds.
seconds.
It's a high wire act of how much of this movie can you remember.
Oh,
but we are as bad. we are so fucking bad at this. We fail so often.
Shockingly bad.
And so what we're pitching you, you could say no. What we're pitching you is you each get 30 seconds to describe the plot as it happens of Black Christmas. And we have a track that plays. So you'll hear music. It's very intense. Austin and Cody made this thing. It's very intense music. It's spooky. But there are
screams at each 15-second interval.
and it's a minute long, so we could cue you. You'll know when it starts, but we could cue you at the 30 seconds, and you could switch off, and then you would wrap out the synopsis of the film
I think
as
that
it ends.
expression does it all.
Yeah.
I'd rather sit here and watch you guys suffer.
Watch us fuck it
Yeah,
up. Okay.
yeah.
We are glad to do it that way.
The only time I've seen it was with you.
Oh, okay.
Like last year, I haven't seen it. I had not seen it for I don't even know how many years before
20
that.
years now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I'm not like I don't know if you guys can relate, but watching yourself in a movie is not that fun. And
Sure.
so I don't like Glen will watch it and I'll come in and I'll be like, "What are you watching?" And I'll be like, "This seems familiar." Oh, right. Yeah, this is, and I know it because I, stay with Glen until the end of the movie and I watch it a million times and I can do it like objectively, to talk about the production or the music or whatever, but I like watching myself. I mean,
Okay.
I don't watch it that much.
Totally
But
get it.
I can do my best. But if I fail terribly, it's because
So you're down. You want to play? You want to do it?
I'll do whatever I'm asked to do.
I love
Within
it.
reason. Within reason.
Glenn, would you be down to do the other 30 seconds?
But it's a fail.
It's a fail.
It's all right.
It is.
That's
It's a
totally
fail.
okay.
I could
We-
tell you Rosary's baby.
We have often each of us have taken our 15 seconds in the movie and gone, And then the killer shows up in the car, and so we've been there. We do that all the time.
Yeah.
So-
No, I saw your Halloween one.
Oh, okay. There it is.
Yeah, where we all failed to mention many things.
Yeah.
That's a pretty easy one.
See?
Now he's talking.
Why'd you
game.
look at me when you said that?
All right, well, 3,
You were
2.
there. I was trying to.
Well, this
The
and also
Black Christmas is
it's
pretty
hard.
complex.
Well, it is because it does jump around in time.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I know the plot of Karen, and you're my cookie.
Yeah.
I love her.
You could default to just like whatever Karen's doing when she's off camera. Like I know what my character's doing. So.
Like those things I remember, but where they cut in to the movie, I think that would be hard plot wise. But yeah.
All right. Which of you would like to go first?
You
The
could
first
also
30 seconds.
Swap at the 15s.
They could just go
if
back
you
and
wanted.
forth.
We could do that too. You could swap at the 15s.
So we have. Are there clues? as to
You'll
that?
hear.
You will hear.
There's
You
no
will
like hints.
You will hear it, but we could give you the
Okay.
visual
So
signal.
then you don't have to do a whole 30
Yeah.
second chunk, and you can kind of tag team it.
Every
Try to get
15 seconds, you're going to hear someone scream,
That is yes.
and then
One
you can
is
swap.
technically a gorilla, but it doesn't.
And we're telling you what's happening in the movie.
Yep.
You're
Full
trying to get through
spoilers.
the whole plot.
You
Get
can just
through it.
The,
Just a
I can just what?
you get your way
Huh?
through it.
Okay. All right.
yeah.
It's
You just go. I show up, and
you,
the movie
you
takes
wrote,
off.
You wrote it. You wrote it. If you can't,
It's the
I
best
feel-
stab at
I
a
feel like-
Wikipedia summary,
If,
basically.
I feel like I'm in good company if I'm here with the guy who wrote it. So.
All right. So Glenn, you want to start it off?
I think you should start.
Okay.
All right.
Sure.
Well, you'll start
So
it.
do I
and then-
shut up at 15
I know it
seconds?
starts
Yeah.
on a house.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
we'll-
Okay.
Well, yeah. We'll,
So
we'll
we'll
cue.
point to you at the 15, and then you'll take over, and then we'll go back and back.
All right. You guys ready for a shutdown?
It's all in fun.
3, 2, 1.
Okay, it's a few days before Christmas, and there's a sorority, and they're all giving each other presents and stuff. And meanwhile, we find out that there was some really weird things happened in this house in the past. There was a family and a little boy.
And there's a phone call. There's a phone call.
Yeah.
Right? There's a phone call. And no one's there.
Okay, back to Glenn.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a phone call and it goes, and everyone's like kind of like weirded out. And then we see a girl upstairs who's having presents get stabbed in the head.
Oh, right.
And she disappears and she's not around. And so then
Back to Kristen.
And then, who? Me? And then I show up and I say, "Where's my sister?" And they say, "Who are you?" And I say, "I'm Lee Colden."
Christmas 2006.
is that the worst one ever?
No.
No.
What did we do recently? We did one.
I mean,
that
no, that
we
might
were,
be the worst one.
We were.
I'm not gonna lie. You got through about 15 minutes of the movie.
I don't know. We could see how bad we do.
No, we biff it all the time.
Always
no,
biff it.
Yeah, no, we biff it a lot. It's an impossible thing to do. It's better.
We
to do.
should have watched
It's
it.
silly.
That was like a year ago.
Well, this is actually an annual rewatch in this house. I watch this movie every year as part of Christmas. Both this and the original, and then I always decidedly end up skipping the more recent one.
Oh.
Which I like too. I maintain there's no bad Black Christmas movie, straight up, which is
well,
great.
Wait, are you guys doing your summary or no?
Oh no,
Okay, because
can.
we can't go any further without how great the original Black Christmas is.
We can.
I often say, too much is the best straight slasher movie that's ever existed.
To me, it's the first one. It doesn't get credit. When a Stranger Calls gets credit for the calls coming in the house, but it's this movie.
Yep.
You know, as a kid, we had moved to San Diego that had experimental cable channels, so it had kind of this thing called Channel 100, which is a kind of a precursor to HBO, and that's where Darren, my brother, and I saw Black Christmas.
Oh, interesting.
Because my dad it was just a small little film. And if you go to Halloween, which is like a great and a classic, it's just the handheld, the wide angle, the night stuff. It's just, and then a different time, and it wasn't the hot button that it is now, but to have a whole storyline about abortion. and not have it be like cringy.
Right.
And to, the casting, it's just a masterpiece, and there was no way that I could ever try to top it. But we were trying. We'll get into this. Trying to do that.
Trying to do
What Bob did.
okay.
And we got derailed, but I just think that original film is just a masterpiece.
It really is. We did an episode on this last year, I believe. We just covered that. We just talked about that ad nauseum. And yeah, all those things you mentioned just so far beyond their time. And that's something that Halloween doesn't even get into. Halloween's special for it just being a very simple thing that you could pull from, but the abortion subplot with the red herring, killer, it's not him, and it's just it's so rich, and is one of the greatest looking movies I may have ever seen as well.
The lighting and the coloring in that film.
I still don't know how that guy climbed up that lattice.
Oh,
the
God.
Camera.
That opener.
Every time I see that shot, I'm like, how is he doing this?
You're like, I'm sorry, Dean Cundy, but
He's got a
this fucking-
40-pound
yeah.
camera. How? It's like Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
It is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, they used a lot. We try to do this too. It's like the way that he has the red and green against black, and that movie really showed how Christmas is creepy. To me, Halloween's beautiful.
Yeah.
And Christmas is creepy, and there's and then when you're older and you find out that Mary and Joseph were running from a slaughter, and it's really a Roman holiday that the 25th is when the sun was born, and all. It was just it's a real dark, and the strange man was going to come into your house, depending on whether you were good or bad. It was just scared the shit out of me as a kid. And that movie, like great art, taps into and reflects something that is in you that you weren't really aware of.
Right. How much when you with the obviously the original is very inspirational for you, but to what when you were writing your version, how much of the original were you paying attention to when you were? Because what always strikes me so engaging about yours is that it's really more of a reimagining. Feels like to me. I know people call it a remake, but every time I watched it, it feels so uniquely its own thing, in many ways.
Well, you couldn't do the abortion thing. It was just would have stopped in the tracks, unfortunately. Yes, it was a reimagining. Bob Clark, which is about as Canadian a name as you can get. He reminded me of he reminded me of Thomas Mitchell and It's a Wonderful Life, the uncle.
Yeah.
That he was kind of a absent-minded professor, the nicest man, and you think, David Kelly of Ally McBeal and one of the biggest producers ever. His first film that he wrote was directed by Bob Clark, From the Hip.
Oh, no shit.
Down where we shot Trick or Treat, Murder by Decree, Christmas Story,
Yeah, I know.
Black Christmas.
I'm
Porky's.
obsessed with Bob Clark's career. It's
Baby Geniuses.
Baby Genius. It's fascinating. The swings.
Yeah, right.
I mean, there's a world where you make arguably the two best Christmas movies ever made in Black Christmas and Christmas Story, and then Baby Genius is in there, and then there's a goat movie in there. It's crazy. He's just scattered. I love it.
Yeah, he was a really. When we met him, he was upset because Black Christmas, Christmas Story was made for $4 million, 400,000 of which was his own money, so he could shoot in Cleveland when it was snowing.
Oh wow!
When I was a kid, that was in film school. It came out in December, but didn't leave theaters till March. A Christmas Story.
Yeah.
Gone with the Wind's ratings had gone down while Christmas Story had gone up. There was sequels. I mean, I think I had 4 DVD versions myself. And he was suing Warner Brothers because they claimed it hadn't made any money. And he felt bad. And then my agent was going, no, they don't respect you unless you sue them.
Oh my God! I mean, what the?
Holy shit! There's a musical of it. What are you doing? Yeah, it's crazy.
And he was just a really good guy, and he was all supportive. Oh, and to answer I said, hey Bob, I'd like to have you have a copy of the script because I'd like to look at it. To know what he's like. Oh yes, and he was going to show Black Christmas at the New Art down in Santa Monica, he's like, come. It was a midnight screening. He's like, come down to that, and I'll give you the script. I'm like, okay. And I go down there, and he gives a speech, blah blah blah. And the whole time he's holding a manila envelope, and it's done. I'm like, guys, I don't really want to watch the movie because it's midnight.
Yeah.
And he gives me the envelope. I'm like, oh, thanks, blah blah blah. I go home. I pull it out. It's not a copy of the original script. It's his Black Christmas.
Oh, with all his notes and shit.
Like, it's like, oh my God! It belongs to Smithsonian. I'm like, I'm gonna lose it.
Yeah.
You know, and so I just kind of looked at that for reference.
Was there a lot like I mean, as someone that's a fan of the original film, and I imagine that you knew it intimately, and you're reading his notes. Were there things that you would like look at and notice that weren't in the original film that then you were able to kind of grasp as inspiration for your?
Not that I recall. I did. No? You know, I just wanted to know the names. I wanted to know some history.
Sure.
But I didn't want to copy it.
Okay.
You know, and I guess maybe it was a mistake because you can never, you can't top it.
Yeah, but pardon me if I'm speaking wrong. I don't think you were trying to top it, and I don't think you maybe say that you were. You were trying to do a thing with it, right? And I think you can even take that abortion subplot and say that you you pivoted so hard you did the exact opposite thing, because a very key plot point in the film is that there is a incestual relationship where a baby is born, and that baby has become a problem for everybody. You know, so and if you very directly went the other way with some of
the original. Whatever I must have been, 14 or 15 shows, and as much as I liked all those movies, I didn't watch The Wolfman because of the adult themes in it. After watching Black Christmas, I can go back and go, oh, there's adult themes in all the great ones. And so we were trying to do a thing about family. You know, there's this constant, you're my family now, and, you know, and all that. And the suggestion of two killers was brought in by somebody else and all this stuff. But that was like, to me, I was trying to do that theme.
Sure.
So you just naturally are going to have a different way to make that movie, to present that movie, than what the original was doing.
Mm-hmm. And we could skirt around those who must not be named as much as you'd like to.
Bob White.
Yeah, those fuckers. Because clearly they had a very heavy hand, from what I've read and heard, very heavy hand in how some of this ended up. At what point in the process, when you were writing and even in production, did you realize, oh, this is turning into something that I hadn't maybe intended, or? Yeah.
Kristen might be able to remember a bunch of this. I mean, you know, I was like, they 2929 is, I don't know if they're still around, Mark Cuban and Todd Wagner's company. I think Todd Wagner was like a film guy. I only met Cuban at the party.
I was going to ask. He seems like the guy who's like you meet at the party, who's like, I've got the money for the whole thing.
You know, they were both
super nice.
Yeah, both of them were great. They were really supportive, and I talked to Todd Wagner like at 3 a.m. Like, who are you?
Yeah.
Oh, hi. You know, so they were all okay. The Weinsteins bought into that company 11% while I was in pre-production.
Okay.
And I went, uh-oh.
Oh, interesting.
And you know, ran through my head of walking at that point. I can't get a movie made. And I thought, I think this could be okay, and then we can move on. And they weren't around. Shooting that movie was like a blast.
Hell yeah.
They're all friends and people from Vancouver and the cast, a great time. And then, you know, Bob wanted every horror movie he made to be Scream.
Okay.
And so every note, everything, if you figure it out, he's trying to make this Scream.
Mm-hmm.
But Black Christmas is not...
Two killers.
Well, that was another guy.
Oh, okay. Well,
and
Bob's like, great idea.
Well, and then Kristen and I had worked on a show, Millennium, which is all about serial killers, and we had done a lot of research, and we worked with original gangster profilers. Okay. And it just doesn't happen.
I had already been in one horrible movie where I played a profiler, and there was like a band of, they were like a band of, it always makes me insane. Okay. When they don't get that, like, because if you don't get the psychology right, it kind of ruins the movie, because if you know about behavioral science or whatever it is, if it doesn't track, and just like anything, how many times is a show or a movie ruined when you go, that character wouldn't do that, or that doesn't,
Right.
That's not the way that people's patterns go. It just pulls you out of the movie. So I'm never a fan of the, duo serial killer thing. I always think that's so weird. Like, it just doesn't, people don't really do that.
They had a situation where they had like a creative and a production guy, and the creative guy left, leaving the production guy, who I felt needed to make some creative choices to show that he was worthy of both, of having that job by himself. So he's like, I think should be 2 killers. I was like, the Hillside Strangler was kind of 2 killers, but other than that, there's not that many. I'm like, I don't know. And he was adamant, and you go, well, I haven't seen that in the movie, and so you try to make that work. That wasn't a Bob thing.
Interesting.
And then it wasn't until later that we were done with the movie, and I don't know if this is the order you want to.
No, let's go for it. Whatever feels good.
Well, I mean, and the advantage is that Dean got cast as Agnes, and so that it was like for every bad thing that happened, when the Weinsteins came on, you were like, okay, you're making this movie with 2929, and they weren't that big, and then when the Weinsteins came on, you were sort of like, well, maybe there's an advantage to it being part of the Weinstein Company or whatever it was. And then it was 2 killers. Well, the advantage was you could have, Dean play, because Dean just has this great, great face. I mean, he's just such an interesting looking person. And we work with him so much, and he just has such a really different, unique quality. I mean, the quality that he has in the movie as Agnes is Dean. And so there was like a lot of advantages where you were like, well, this is not what we wanted, but the advantage is you get to kind of maybe entertain something that you wouldn't have entertained before. Sure. And so that oftentimes in movies becomes like the greatest thing ever, or it doesn't work, and you never know what thing is going to be. And I think Dean's great in it, but the 2 killers thing is hard. I mean, they're both of them are great as the killers, but it complicates the plot a little bit.
So now I'm endlessly fascinated by this. So because it feels like at least somebody watching the film, it does not feel like this came secondhand, right? There were like that it was an afterthought that they would have the 2 killers going on.
Well, he wrote it. It's in the script.
Oh, okay. So
it's definitely in the script.
Got it. So
and he knew that before.
Okay.
Before we went to. I mean, Dean was cast.
Like write the script, and like Dean, who played Agnes, was assistant camera operator.
Oh, amazing.
Wow. Like on a bunch of stuff, but like on Final Destination, and like when Dean would come in to clean the lens, and you'd be at Video Village, and everybody would just. And he's the sweetest, Canadian hockey player, farm boy.
And his voice, I mean, the way he talks as Agnes, that's how he talks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he just has this very soft quality, but he's like he's a bigger guy. Yeah. He's not small at all. And he's got all that that hair is his hair.
No shit.
Really?
That's incredible.
Yeah, he's got this kind of great gray.
He was on Dark Angel.
Yeah.
And James Cameron was directing the last episode of the year. And it was just Cameron and Dean in the back of a van. And Cameron was working the camera, and Dean trying to hang on there. And the car swerves. Dean falls and puts his knee through a glass or something like that, just bleeding profusely. And Dean was like, Mr. Cameron, sir? Mr. Cameron? My leg is bleeding. He's like, shut up. Shut the fuck up. And Dean, shut up. So that's just like, he's just the best. So we had that, and then they said, well, maybe we should have, what if we had 2 killers? And they're like, what does that do? And again, that's one further step from the original.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because now you got to deal with that killer as well.
Yeah.
And you do it so like in such an interesting way too, right? Because you have. I remember the first time that I watched it, I was immediately because it's always been thrown to me as this is a remake, and then you start the film and you immediately realize that it's not a remake. It does not feel like a remake, right? You're greeted with this, the insane asylum stuff. That's just so like,
Which is a success of
massive success. But then when you find out that that's Billy in the insane asylum, right? You're suddenly like, well, wait a minute.
Isn't
Who's
this
in the
supposed-
house?
Yeah,
right?
but it should start with all that background.
Sure, okay.
You just saw all that, and and you just know about Agnes,
Okay.
and then go into the sorority, and you're carrying that with you, as opposed to like you kind of know Billy escaped, and now they're all talking about Agnes. You kind of the way we ended up having to cut it, we didn't have to cut it, but gives that away. And so it's just like when you go, I want 2 killers, you go, okay, I'm going to structure it this way so it's a surprise, and then you freak out because it has a slower pace like the original, and you got to recut it, and you go, well, you're not, now the surprise is out of the bag.
Right. Okay. That's
That-
interesting.
That is, yeah, for sure. But if you're a super fan of the original, or you're doubling them, like you're going in expecting like, okay, they're gonna do a mystery again, like a 1 killer mystery.
Right.
But opening with the Billy thing, you're like, well, fuck, that's out of the bags, like you said. So like, where's this gonna go? Which maybe not the first intention, but it is. I think it does remain interesting. It's such a U-turn from where the original is. You're just like, well, this is new. I'm on board. I'm happy to see where this goes. And I love that he gets just a little detail of the film that Billy gets his Christmas lights in his cell.
Yeah.
It's just great. I just peeking
Well,
in,
they
and it's
just had
just
to go
always-
right into just trying to make it kind of embrace the humor to it. I guess probably the audience liked some of that. And again, I'm not. Throughout that whole process, Kristen's like a really great writer, and she was always there to we'd go over that, like this thing they're asking, what? And we would talk about that endlessly, and like she said, and I think probably if I was talking to younger directors to go, really be sure, because I don't know on some of those things that I was sure, and it happened to me on Willard. It was like R-rated movie. The rats was so gory. Lee Ermey, you could say to Lee Ermey, who's from Full Metal Jacket, you can go, hey Lee, could you say something from the desk to your room? And he goes, you're not fit to be the fucking pimple on the thing, and we're all just like howling. And then The Ring came out, and they go, there's never going to be an R-rated horror
Son of a
movie again.
bitch.
So he had to cut Willard down to a PG. I had Lee go, hey, what the fuck? What happened, Glenn? And it was horrible. And then 6 months later, they released Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake with Lee Ermey,
Right.
an R-rated movie. So you're just in that position to go, and then sorry, but I had 15 producers. Is like, well, we'll take care of Bob with you, and they all ran. Every one of them ran for the hills. It was just like I was, yeah. So.
Yeah, that's as you know, like the Hollywood machine of they don't know what they want, then they think they know what they want, and then it changes yesterday, and then
You're
you're
dealing with
stuck.
Bob.
Yeah,
Bob and Harvey in 2006. where
You're
it's
not
like,
fighting them.
You want to talk about a monster movie?
Yeah.
Everyone was terrified. I knew a really good friend who socially knew him without any of the things that everyone's going, uh-oh.
okay, yeah.
That wasn't Bob, I think. But so I knew Bob a little bit, and he was around. And so they had a preview in a theater in Manhattan, and I'm like, this isn't Scream. And I'm like, I'm a dead man, so I went to Sparks Steakhouse where John Gotti shot Paul Castellano. I go, 'cause I'm next.
just take me now.
Take me now. And went down there, and it didn't. I hate those things, and it didn't go well. And then all the producers over there, and Bob Weinstein's like, hey, come here. And you're in this, it wasn't a mall, but it was a theater, and kids are playing video games and popcorn and stuff. And Bob's like, what'd you think? I'm like, well, I do better. Because I think you do better. I'm like, look, Bob, I know this movie had gone out, and you didn't pick it up. And you're only releasing it because you bought into Todd's company. So I understand that. I want you to be happy, but I got into this to make my movie. I've been kind of fucked over a little on Willard, and I don't want to have it. I just want to make my movie, and I'm trying to make Bob's movie. He's like, yeah, okay, yeah. Okay, well, we can pace it up. He's like, okay, great. I'm like, oh, so relieved. And I think it's like right by the bathroom of this place. I get back here, and I get called in at 2029. They're like, what'd you say to Bob Weinstein?
Oh, those motherfuckers.
I'm like, what do you mean?
Well, it was contentious. I remember you saying.
Well,
it
everybody
was.
says that, but I don't remember.
I know, but I
Sure.
know that it was because you called me right after, and you're like, "This could be bad." I do remember that part.
But then they let it go. And so then I went in there and, they said, what'd you say? And I said what I just told you. And then like, yeah, you're okay. You're not a liar. And so they go, okay, can you cut it? And then Chris Willingham, who Jim Wong and I knew from 21 Jump Street, we just got in there and started hacking. Mm-hmm. And
Well, also during the filming of the movie, because they, I guess it was Saw, they started wanting us to have a lot more gore in the movie.
primarily Hostile.
Yeah, it was
Right. Hostile,
Probably
yeah.
in the wake of all those, right? Those
Yeah.
Rejects, Saw, Hostile.
So,
Right.
like somewhere during the movie, the original movie, in the original script, my character lives, but they wanted it to be a bloodbath and everyone to die. So,
Because it's on the DVD, but her ending is like Bob's. It's like she and Katie are in a hospital. It's pretty great. It took us all day to set this up.
Yeah.
And because like with modern times, the phone call, she had been given her personal effects in a manila envelope. And so they're in the hospital, and then the phone rings in the manila envelope the way it did in the house. Mm-hmm. And the two of them are just looking at each other, and you pull back through the snow and some Christmas lights, and you get the Cracker Sweet stuff going.
Yeah.
And like, no way. And so we went in there and did all that stuff, and it still didn't do anything. And then so we got into fights, and then the one time they go, look, we're just going to shoot some stuff on Friday. You don't have to be there. It's just for the trailer. Just like bulbs and the star on the tree. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to like mend fences or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, okay. Then that night I got a call from Michelle Trachtenberg. She's like, why do I have a shotgun? I'm like, what?
What?
She goes, I got me with a shotgun. I'm shooting this thing, and I've got this like crazy thing on the roof. I'm like, what?
What?
And then right after, Dean calls me, Mr. Morgan, why do I have a pitchfork? I'm like,
Oh, no.
What the fuck's
Where
happening?
are you?
Why are they arming you? Who armed you?
And so then I have to blow my mind again and go, okay, that stuff not in the movie. So if someone sees a trailer and goes, oh, there's a lawnmower with Christmas lights, I want to see that movie, and you go see a movie, it's not in it. So you're going to hate it. If you might like the movie we wanted to do, you wouldn't go see a movie with a lawnmower on a roof. So what's the point?
I fucking remember that. I remember seeing that trailer, Michelle Trachtenberg having that rifle. What was it? Like Merry fucking Christmas? Like she has
That's
like
right,
the
yeah.
fucking line.
Right,
I remember
right,
that.
yeah, yeah.
And I didn't see the movie at the time. But that was whatever.
This actually came to fruition.
Yeah, that came out.
Oh, no
No,
shit.
it's not in the movie.
Yeah,
Right,
that's not
right,
in the
right,
film,
but,
but,
like,
that
that's a-
trailer happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it happened.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Wild.
And then
what it was attached to.
at the end of the day, I got a manila envelope comes to the door. Here's your director's cut. So those DVDs, like director's cut, I didn't do anything on them.
Oh gosh, yeah, I was trying to track down
Yep, I was going to ask about
like
this.
'cause this movie doesn't exist on Blu-ray in America currently, right?
I-
Yeah, I don't know.
We couldn't tell you the plot.
No, I think there's like the Euro version.
There's
the
a
only
German
blur-
version
yeah,
that supposedly has an alternate cut, which might have that
heard
ending.
that,
So I'm
yeah.
very curious if that. I was not able to procure one before this. damn, that is so. Despite all that, I would like to say, you shoot the shit out of this fucking movie. Like, shoot the absolute shit out of it. Even that ending, which was not the one you wanted, and you watch it and you're like, yeah, this might be not the things I want happening to happen, but the way you shoot shadows, which is what you did during the whole movie, and then even like Billy falling on the Christmas tree is just so gorgeous. Like, so kudos to you for fucking.
No, well,
you know.
thanks. But Rob McLaughlin was a cinematographer who went on for his. Now he's doing all that Yellowstone stuff, but he did a lot of Game of Thrones. He did Final Destination. We started working with him on Millennium. Mark Freeborn was a production designer who he built the Super Lab on Breaking Bad.
Oh, wow.
Amazing.
And he was great in Millennium, and he did, Final Destination 3, all that stuff with the roller coaster and all,
Well, you guys picked a hell of a creative team, like.
They're all friends. They're all buddies. And then the casting is John Papsadera, who does all of Nolan's films.
And he casts all the Yellowstones too.
Yeah, he's great. And Shirley Walker. I'll get choked up talking about Shirley because she had scored. She's one of the first. Let's see. Escape from L.A. with Carpenter.
Okay.
She played the synthesizer. She didn't score it, but she played the synthesizer on Apocalypse Now.
Oh, wow.
She did a lot of the music for Black Beauty. She scored Memoirs of an Invisible Man. I think that's like the first female to do a score. And
Holy shit.
Oh, wow.
she was like tough little hippie, kind of matronly lady from Berkeley. And the one time I was on Willard, but I had Shirley Walker here and Lee Ermey here, and the two of them talking about the benefits of the Vietnam War, and I was like, wow. That was her last score, and she was like, we had finished the mix, and I walked her out to the parking lot. And I'm doing a lot of trashing here, but yeah, thanks. There's a lot that I'm proud of, and I said to Shirley, I'm like, sorry, Shirley, we made a piece of shit. And she just laughs and goes, well, I like when you guys write movies about heroes. Because they nixed her from The One, even though they used her music for trailers.
Oh, God.
Like, shit.
The Kevin Bacon movie, The Invisible Man thing.
Hollow Man.
That was
Man,
all
yeah.
Shirley's music on the
Oh,
trailer,
cool.
but they wouldn't let us use it for The One. And I said, we made this piece of shit. And she's like, I like when you make movies about heroes. I'm like, okay, let's do that next. And then never saw her again. She had a stroke and then passed away around this time. And she was
I had
like,
actually seen her. I had seen her after.
she's just,
Yeah.
she was somebody that, a composer that can tell you, she did stuff on Space Above and Beyond. The theme she wrote for Kristen's character taught me about the character.
Wow.
That her character was like looking for revenge, and what Shirley wrote was like this round do 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 do, because revenge is just doesn't get you anywhere. And then she rearranged it, and that was when we got married. That was what we.
Oh, that's so good.
Nice.
It's such a beautiful piece of music. She's so talented. And I just want to reiterate. I mean, we were talking about, it's fun to talk about like all the mistakes, and you don't see that. But I was really struck when we watched it a year ago. I was like, because I had to live through, the part where my husband is distraught that his movie's being, and so I definitely took a long break from that movie. But I was really surprised at how much I really liked the movie when I watched it. I was like, hey, this is a good movie, and so much better than a lot of the horror movies. I don't go to I write horror, and I've been in a lot of horror, but I'm not like the horror lady. I don't go to a lot of movies, but Glen and Tim will take me to a horror movie. And I'm like, this is just so bad. What is this? And so when we were watching that movie, I was like, wow, this movie's actually really good. All the kids in it were great, and Andrea Martin, of course, is amazing. And I don't know, I actually really enjoyed it. So, after being so far away from, my best friend's heartbreak, I could finally enjoy it, and I really did enjoy it.
Were you referring to when we watched Leprechaun 3?
I was not. If you notice, I was not there. I was not present for Leprechaun 3 because I wanted to enjoy 2 hours.
We should watch all of them at once.
Yeah. And that's mean to say because I haven't seen it. Maybe it's a wonderful movie and I'm wrong.
Yeah, and by no means, we're not here talking about this movie tonight because we want to find out all the shitty things that happened to you on it. I fucking love this movie. Like, it is a blast to fucking watch.
Yeah, I won't forget. I'll never forget that. I think when we decided that we were going to watch it for the spooky movie night.
Yeah.
Glenn, I remember you looked at me and you were like, "You're fucking with me."
We could have chose the thing.
We could have chose the thing, right? But I remember you were like, "You're fucking with me." There's no way that you actually like want to watch this movie. We really are serious. Like we love and champion this movie.
These are the nooks and crannies you find, especially as horror people, because we will watch Leprechaun 3, fucking Howling 6. We will do this shit. But you latch onto that because you find those, like, they were made with, like, Czechoslovakian, gang money. So that in Europe, and you're like, how are they getting away with this shit? And there are people who put art and craft into these fucking things.
Yeah.
And this, still being a Hollywood film, has all that shit, And I think you guys speak up, like, we like the outcast sort of cinema and music, and, like, we like that stuff, So this has all those hallmarks of just outcast cinema to an extent.
It has all those hallmarks, but then to Kristen's point, like, this is a good movie.
Yeah.
It really is a good movie. It's well written. It's well shot. It's well acted. It's a very, very, very interesting movie. And as I was saying earlier, like, as a big fan of the original, and then seeing the pepperings of it in the DNA of this reimagining it's so fun.
I can't. Michelle getting her head dragged down like a bowling ball. Mm-hmm. That's all the shit we're talking about.
Sure.
That's not. I hate whatever they called torture porn. I hate it.
Yeah.
I'm a Hitchcock person, and it's got to be set up and paid off. And that was just like mean.
Well, it's hard. This movie's hard.
It's a mean.
It feels hard.
It's aggressive.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the most important part of why this movie's any good. Kristen's coat.
I was going to wear the coat tonight because I actually have one.
And you walk in, and one of the other actors is immediately like, "That's a fucking nice coat."
Yeah.
Because they all were going on about the coat.
Oh,
And I
really?
said to Lacey, I'm like, interrupt her and say something about the coat.
Well, Greg, we knew from
Greg Ma, the costume designer, had done Final Destination 3.
right, and I guess I didn't work with him, but I knew him because I was around somewhat during the filming, and he was like, "You have to have a good coat," and so we thumbed through all these photos, and he said, "I just happen to have a bolt of really nice cashmere," and I found a picture of the coat that I wanted, and he recreated it for me, and that became the coat, and it was such a big thing, and I was so excited about this coat, and the coat became. And Greg and I went out shopping. He was just so much fun to work with. I mean, it was a dream, and so when I had this coat on, it was really one of the nicest things in the whole movie. I mean, it wasn't like a really big budget movie, and my coat was like one of the most luxurious things in the whole
Worth
film.
it.
Everybody talks about the coat.
Yeah.
Worth it. Because, like, your intro into the movie is a very, like, showstoppery thing. We're like, oh, what's this new element? Then you're wearing that piece of wardrobe. So it's just like all the attention's on you at this point. We're like, who is this person? Why do they look so fucking awesome? Like, something's going on here.
Yeah,
And-
she's not a sorority. She's an adult.
Yeah.
And, let's see. Yeah, Andrea Martin was in the original. My brother and I we were the guys that would not go out. SCTV was like, first it was on syndicated. It was never on a set time. And so you would just go, oh my God, it's on. And then it came on NBC and watched it. And so the chance to have Andrea Martin.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And then, I think Kristen was the only one that would improv with her. And she came to me and she's like, they won't give me anything. I'm like, you were in clubs. You need an improv. You need another person. They grew up here's your lines, cut. They go to the trailer.
Well, also, I think, for young people, especially, a lot of those girls were very young and had grown up on sets where you didn't act with people. You memorized your lines and you said them, and then the other person said their lines, and you weren't really trained to act with anyone. You were just trained to say your lines. And so I think Andrea, who was, all improv and SCTV and all of that stuff, was, looking to have something to feed off of, to really be in a scene with people. And with some of the girls, we talked about that, like Katie, she was kind of a newer actor and she hadn't really done a lot of stuff. So some of the acting that she did in that movie was some of the first acting that she had ever done, and she was interested in learning and being part of a scene, and that was fun. I remember like really being excited to watch her watching her learning and taking tips from other people, and it was nice. But
Andrea had been in the original, and at one point during making the movie, she's like, I don't remember anything about being in the original.
Really? What was it like getting Andrea into on cast for the film?
Done deal.
Oh no, really? Just
Well, because she was in the original, I think we looked at. I'm blanking because I'm having is that Margot Kidder?
Yeah.
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 I checked into that, but I really wanted Andrea
Oh, amazing.
because SCTV was everything to me, and so it ended up with Andrea. I was like, and she was a joy. She was great. I think all that stuff. I think Kristen curses, and she's like language. That's just all her.
Yeah.
And she was just a joy.
And it was like, what a dream to be in her presence.
Mary we were doing Final Destination 3, and we were getting this ready, and I was flying to LA, and I go into the terminal in Vancouver, I don't know, like 4 a.m, and there's only one person, Mary Winstead. I sit down, I'm like, hey, Mary. She goes, why aren't I in your movie? I'm like, what do you want to play? She goes, I can play this part. I'm like, done.
Amazing.
Oh wow. Okay.
'Cause
Nice.
she was great, and it was and she's great.
Yeah, she's great.
And like Dean was a camera operator, and Robert Mann, who played Billy, I've used him a lot, cast him a lot subsequently. And then the mother, Karen Conoval, she's probably the thing you would know her from, but not, is that she's Maurice, the orangutan in the Planet of the Apes movies.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, because she does the bot motion capture.
That's incredible.
Really?
Wow.
And she
realize
Kristen talked to her about it. It's like she goes into those compounds with the apes.
Oh yeah, she helps raise money for them for the orangutan. She has a whole.
Amazing.
Yeah, she's incredible, but she's most famous in our world for, in the X-Files. There's the episode that Glenn wrote home, which is considered like one of the scariest episodes of television ever, and she plays the mother who's under the bed. And
I know it very, very, very well.
yeah, feed me.
She's just like
She's incredible.
commits
Yeah.
and has a great sense of humor and all that stuff. Santa Claus is dead. It's just all her. And then she has a thing when she's fooling around with the husband. And she's like, well, it says nudity. I'm like, you know what? We don't need that. She's like, no, I think it would be good for this reason. I'm like, yeah, we don't need that. I turn around and there she is. I'm like, that was unexpected. We don't
Just
need
there.
that.
Really
But
wanted
she's
to be
like-
naked.
She's just like, this is what it
It's
takes.
disturbing.
Yeah, and she's like, if it's disturbing, I'm
Right,
like,
it's
okay,
more
she's right.
upsetting.
Yeah, it is the opposite of sexy. That scene.
Right,
It's
right,
very,
right.
very, very.
But
upsetting.
she's really good at understanding what's disturbing. I think she's really good at it. And she plays like, I don't know, I think she's been on the X-Files and plays different characters, like maybe
Yeah, she
5.
did one where she like played 3 people.
Yeah.
And the one we came back a few years ago, and she was like, she said to me,
One was a man.
my dream is to play a man and to do a part where I only talk to a puppet. And so I think we wrote that for her. But she's like, she's just phenomenal. But yeah, she's the orangutan.
Well, the episode of Exiles Home that we were just talking about is absolutely the reason that I had to sleep on the floor next to my mother's side of the bed for like 3 or 4 weeks when I was a child.
He was 21.
Yeah, this is a few years ago.
Yeah.
He takes turns sleeping in next to our beds at home because it still
Occasionally,
hits
yes.
hard.
I'm not, I think, any of those doing the cookies.
But just let me just say one thing back to home, which I think is really important, apropos of what we're talking about. You never see blood in Home. There's no, you think that you see so much horror in that episode, and it's considered one of the scariest episodes. But there's no, it's really not a lot of blood spill or what is considered horror now. And I think that what's hard for people when you're trying to make a movie with Glen, probably I would imagine, is that Glen knows how to make something scary or creepy, but it doesn't necessarily have to be blood.
Sure.
And when you're talking about, tens of millions of dollars, it's hard to trust that without loading him down with where's the notes or where's the, and it doesn't always, that stuff always doesn't test well. But it ages really well. Like I think Willard ages well, and I think Black Christmas ages well, even though, and it would have been an equally good movie had you not had Michelle Trachtenberg's head, rolling down like a bowling ball or whatever. I think he's really good at that.
character live.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that Glen's really he is a he could teach a class on Hitchcock and horror, and I think he's really understands what's scary. It's one of the things that I like about him as a writer. And
She's talking about that home episode. I brought the network standards and practices lady, Linda, into the editing room with me. Like, okay, we got to cut there. So we cut it together. And we had a rule that these guys were beating the sheriff with a big stick. And the rule was like in baseball, that if you got called for a strike, then we got to rock it back.
Okay.
So nowhere does the killer ever
Yeah.
break his wrist. And all the letters, we got letters like, I do not appreciate seeing a man's brain spill out on the floor on my TV.
You don't
And
see
like,
anything
never
like that.
happened.
Yeah.
I just learned so much
yeah.
trying on a network television. You can't do stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it becomes so effective. So why wouldn't you try to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
more effective.
Right.
100%. People still talk about, like, I can't watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre because the meat hook through the chest. And you're like, you don't fucking see the meat hook through the chest.
Right,
like, you
right,
see her
right,
get
right.
put
Barely
on.
any blood in that movie.
It's
Now,
just
Leprechaun 3, you see it all.
Well, it's just
Thank God.
It's such like a weird time to be making a movie in that area, right? Because like we've been subjected to 9/11 and watching it all on television, right? We get The Devil's Rejects, we get Saw, we get
But
Hostel.
you also had Abu Ghraib, that you had seen pictures of people being tortured.
Yeah.
And then it made its way into the movie, and I'm like, I don't feel that's making a comment that that's wrong. It's just exploiting.
100%.
And I didn't want to do that.
And it was such a fascinating. I remember being in high school and going to see these movies in theaters, and like I remember my mother talking my mother into going to see The Devil's Rejects with me in theaters, and I remember her sitting in the theater being like, "What is
What have I
happening?
done?
What have I done?"
My boy! My sweet boy!
She's a good mom.
You can't sleep next to me tomorrow.
Yeah. But then, and I feel like we're still sort of in it, but not in it anymore. I don't feel like we're getting as many that are as overtly
Like
gory.
the Hereditaries don't.
Yeah, right.
And they,
right.
They pick their spots to make it more effective.
It's
Those
choice.
movies back then were just
Yeah.
We get that now,
relentless.
or we get Terrifier.
That being said, I have written a movie that is like very.
Deserves Terrifier.
sorry. Let's not get carried away.
That being said, I've written stuff that has a lot of gore in it, but
No, Kristen wrote this great horror script trying to get made, and it's just like, we've ruined her.
yeah.
It has like some really great bloody stuff.
Yeah, it's all stuff. They're tools in your kit, right? That you
Yeah,
use
right.
at your disposal, and you can use them well or use them not well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned that this era of movies is such an anomaly. Like it's like you said, The Ring. We were remaking Japanese movies. You know, we were remaking Hollywood movies, and then there was the teens, like the A24 stuff started happening that kind of shifted everything back to like a less abrasive.
Sorry, but I think what I kind of learned the hard way. When I did Willard, when I was a kid, even as a kid, I became like, you beat up the boss. Take this job and shove it. I'm not working here. And you drove your 18-wheeler through the lobby, and you told the boss, go fuck yourself. And, it became like, yeah, okay. In Willard, it was tear him up, and the rats ate the boss. But when I made Willard in 2002, and I don't know how many times I saw the Ramones, that kind of punk attitude, that kind of like, the boss. I don't want to do that. The attitudes had changed.
Yeah.
And so it was, you weren't out to do that. And I think the A24 films are reflecting our times. I might need a little more time to figure out how, in a way. But you just go make The Omen. The Omen was a product of post-Exorcist, Watergate, conspiracy, that the church would give you a baby and just shut up. So it plays better than in 1975. Right. You can make it really good, but we all buy into the conspiracy now. So I think that becomes, and you're right, and that era was like a sweet spot where it had been a couple years after we had all seen our guys torturing people in another country, and we're trying to process it in a certain way, and I didn't really like the way it was processed.
Yeah, no, totally.
No, I agree.
Exploitative, to your point.
Yeah.
And yucky.
Gross.
Yeah.
It gets yucky. It's so yucky.
I mean, we touched upon the cast, talked about it a little bit. I think that is one of the not so secret weapons of the movie is like you have so many howitzers as faces in this movie that you're like, I don't really, and in a good way, I don't know who my main character is in the sense of I don't know who's safe or not.
I was talking to Maddie about that last night. How like there's you can never assume that anybody is going to be the quote unquote final girl throughout the whole film, and I love that about this.
Yeah, because you don't meet Katie's character until a little bit later than I think you normally would in something like this. So it's like you're not really prepared. Like you think you've gotten a handle of the movie, and then it reshapes itself around you.
Yeah.
Is what it feels like. So I think that's a plus for you to be constantly trying to keep up with it, as opposed to being like, I know what's happening, and just having it fed to you, which is a lot of fun.
And I think Oliver Hudson's really good in it. I think he does a good job.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and I was curious, when you were writing the film, were you and creating the characters and the way the archetypes were going to work? For instance, I noticed that like Kristen's character is very reminiscent of the adult figure that shows up shortly after or shortly in the 20-30 minutes into the original, right? I'm blanking on the actor's name, and I'm blanking on the actor's name in the original too. It's Margot Kidder's character in the original, right?
Yeah.
The more like drunken, disorderly one, and how there's a mirror of that almost in this as well, but it's not quite like the house mom doesn't really retain some of those same like drunken characteristics of the one in the original. So I guess my question is, as you were writing this, how much were you paying attention to things like that and like nods to the original?
That movie lays out certain things that people then steal.
Sure, yeah, of
And
course.
so the drunken house mom, you can't do that.
Too obvious, yeah.
Right, and so it's just, I didn't really know what he had in mind, but, Kristen's character is like written for Kristen because she can do that and be funny and all that kind of stuff. And everybody else, you just kind of, the whole thing was just trying to work toward that. I think she has that line, she doesn't have a sister. Like, yeah, she does. Like, that's the whole, everything works out of that. And so every character is trying to be like, where do they fit in this surrogate family?
Okay.
So I guess, but I think some of these movies now are really going out of their way to put convention on its head better than I can.
What do you mean?
If you watch like It Follows or something, I'm like, what? Or I know it's older now. I just think Let the Right One In, the original version, is just like masterful. And I was like, I've watched horror movies my whole life. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? So they're really good at taking the cliche, or maybe some of these guys are young and haven't seen all the stuff that we've had and don't know any better. But to answer your question in terms of Black Christmas, and that was just trying to, what can you do now that
that would hold some sort of link back to the original, given
right? It gets really tough because you're like, oh, the lights are out in the house. Like, I think that's great.
Yeah. Right.
Mm-hmm. And then everyone goes, oh, the audience has just grown at that.
Sure.
The cell phones going out. I mean, this one we still had clamshells.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It wasn't a smartphone, and like people go like, that's what I grew up on. The phone doesn't work, or you can't communicate with people outside the house, and you just find audiences have seen every version of that movie, and you go, oh, I didn't know that they would roll their eyes at that.
Okay, yeah.
That's why timing is a weird thing, because I think it works today perfectly well. And so just at that time, because I wrote down like this feels like the last sort of the last year you could probably do medium tech before you get into like cell phones. Like
Right.
You just had, like you said, the clamshell cell phone. You still had landlines, and you play with those things extremely well. But it's like this comes out a year later, and everyone's like having different problems with the tech that's out there and what you can use.
Because iPhone was like the next year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Right.
So,
But that's why something like I think the original Saw is so brilliant. They're locked in place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not the weather or something like that. Those characters, that's you take writing class, that's put them in an elevator and two people that don't get along,
But Final Destination wouldn't be what it is if you had cell phones.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Sure.
You could be a hard time putting that plot together and executed it.
Sure.
Because you'd just be like, oh, I better get to, Ms. Luton before her, whatever.
Yeah.
And
call
I'll just
her.
call
Right,
her
yeah.
and be like, hey,
Yeah, but Death would take out the cell phone tower. And
Yeah. right, exactly.
that would land on
Right.
the person trying to call.
Right. It'd just be a little longer movie.
A little bit funny. Yeah, Death finds a way.
Yeah.
Devin Saw would just Google how to cheat death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there, done.
Right.
Send.
Right.
Yeah, cell phones suck. So how about them eyeballs in this movie?
A lot of eyeballs.
Well, that was another one that I found throughout the years, that if you just color an eyeball, do anything with eyeball, people hate it.
Yeah, I'm one of those people.
So there's a lot in there, and
But I liked it because I'm guessing you're hearkening to in the original with the shot of you just see the killer's eye.
of course, yeah. And then I don't know if. I'm not sure if Dean has one blue and one, or he had a contact or whatever. And then there's a shot. We were on the stairway, and it comes down. I don't know if you see Kristen in the background, but there's like a blue light and a yellow light. Mm-hmm. And the DP's like, it's just like Billy's eyes. And I'm like, it is?
It is.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
You're right.
Yeah. So there's a lot of like being able to see. Can you see me now?
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, but then
and then I was like really into, I think, with the internet and the whole thing about that they had the sex tape. The whole there's a lot of voyeurism in there. I think that's creepy. The shower scene and Psycho is the best thing ever. And then listening to reading Hitchcock, he's like, oh yeah, he totally knew that you're in there without any clothes. And then in our house, we redid the floors in the bathroom. They were those tiles.
Those little ones.
And they like
Octagonal.
lifted up the tiles, and
Oh,
you could look
gosh.
down a couple down, and I'm like, oh Jesus.
Oh, is that where you got that idea
Yeah,
from?
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Yeah, 'cause
amazing.
it's so creepy.
And then I'll say this here, because it's all said and done, but Jim and I were hired to write Don't Be Afraid of the Dark.
Oh, okay.
Hell yeah.
And Bob loved it, and then Bob didn't love it, and basically that scene was in that script.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm like,
okay.
God damn it. I want to fucking do it. That's great. and they went off. I think Guillermo del Toro produced it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
uh-huh.
he did.
So they just went
Yeah.
off and did their thing, and I'm like, I'm just taking it. This is before Bob was involved, and I put it in, took it out of that, put it in Black Christmas, and then Bob comes around. I'm like, oh no, one of his executives is going to catch me,
Oh no.
Oh no.
and no one
no.
figured it out.
Yeah, I don't
But
think
that was
he-
like, from remodeling our house, that was like,
Yeah.
Incredible.
Well, and the way, and to your point, like the way that you play with voyeurism in this movie, and the way that kind of like ties back to just the inspiration that voyeurism from the camera's perspective, and that inspiration that had from the original, and then going forward in film, particularly in slashers like Halloween,
Right,
And the way that
right.
you do that in this, in your version with the sex tape, the looking in the shower, Billy constantly looking and seeing his creepy eyes looking through everywhere. It's really like it's eerie at all times.
You're right about the eye in the original. It's like he's in the house watching.
Yeah,
him.
right.
And then there was a movie when I was a kid. It was a TV movie called Bad Ronald, and the kid he had was a high school kid, and he had killed another girl, and then he comes home, and the mother's like freaked out and kind of like encloses him under the stairs, and then she has a heart attack.
Oh gosh.
And dies. And then a family moves in with a bunch of teenage girls, and then they start seeing that the bread is gone, and so he's living under the house, and like really bothered me. And then that was all about being watched from your own house. And so that's like, I think there's like a screensaver with a flying eyeball.
Yeah.
And Mad Love, the Peter Lorre movie, is in the back because he's got these great big eyes. So anywhere that we could get an eye in there, you know.
Very cool. Yeah, masterfully done.
Yeah, it's great. The one particular that fall that Agnes takes in between the walls.
Yes.
I guess I'm so like desensitized to like the last handful of years of like, you know, cutting CG stitching together a bunch of stunts that's why we love these like 70s and 80s movies, because they're stunts. Yeah. How'd you shoot that person just falling through those walls?
I think
It just
we
fell through
dropped
the
some
walls.
guy.
We just dropped
Yeah.
Just shoved a guy.
You know what? You write that and you go, this is going to be cheap.
Yeah.
We're in a wall.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
Because your interiors, was that a set? Like,
Yes.
I mean, I'm sure that those
Everything
walls
was a
were,
set.
but that was a set.
Except the beginning is a very famous mental hospital up in Vancouver, Riverview. Like everything has been filmed there. It'd be a great documentary. Mm-hmm. But everything else is a set that Mark Freeborn built. Even under the house,
Oh, incredible.
all that stuff. Yeah.
And your exteriors of the house?
Oh, on the street, potato
Yeah.
flakes.
Yeah.
I'm doing this because it's still in my coat. So, you know, from being a producer on TV shows and like having directors go, you know, this is going to be kind of hard, guys. Go, you fucking do it. And then we're sitting there at 2 a.m.
And it was still
in warm
cold.
temperature. Yeah,
It was-
and you know,
it
and
was-
then
no,
the
it was-
snow, and you're like,
it was
I owe so
cold.
many directors an apology.
And you know, you've got like blowers on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It still wasn't very warm.
Yeah, it wasn't warm. But yeah, so that one week at night on that street, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, it's like the story of John Carpenter on The Thing is that he would pump, because they shot at Universal, he would just pump that stage so cold that you had to feel it. So it was still, it wasn't maybe that cold, but it was still cold.
It was cold, and the thing is that when Mary and I were doing that part that's outside, you know, Mary is, you know, we're just playing the emotion part. So, you know, you're, and I think we're holding on to each other partially because we're freezing, you know, we're like really cold. Yeah, I mean, we know where we have to be emotionally by the time we get to the car. So I think we're probably mostly focused on that.
Yeah.
You know, it helps take away from the cold when you know you need to like get to a mark and scream and cry on a mark. You know, I think that is kind of one of those things you go away, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The cookies weren't happening at 2 a.m.
Okay.
Okay.
And the prop guy, the sweet guy, but not the best we ever had.
All right.
And the cookies are just, I mean, I think that's the kind of thing like
They weren't these cookies.
They're not those.
Skin.
Directing
Oh, yeah.
class, and
Skin
everybody's
Well, they were
like,
skin
you know,
cookies, and that's different.
our daughter, they might be teaching directors about color palette and themes and all that shit. If I was teaching a director's class, I would like screw the director and bring the wrong prop. So you just got like this cookies. I'm like that. Like I thought the cookies were gonna like the girl getting hit by a bus in Final Destination. I was like, yeah, that's working. I had no doubt. And I thought the cookies were like in the ballpark. And then when we got there, they were just like shit. But it's 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And you got to keep going. And then Mark Freeborn and the art department, they knew, like, not good enough. Go film something else, and we'll be back. And so, like, one of the last shots of the night was like the cookies going into the oven done right, and stuff like that. And then, you know what? I don't, because it's here. I don't want to let you down. I don't know if it's in the movie, but when Lacey Chabert gets her present, see, it must not be in the movie. We gave Lacey this, and Lacey's like the sweetest, you know, now she's like Hallmark queen. And the gift was a wrapped big dildo.
Oh, no.
Not in the film.
But I'm like, okay, the prop guy, I'm like, okay, do not let her see this so we can get her reaction. And everyone's like, oh, I couldn't wait. And then the prop guy's like, here's what's going to be in the box.
Oh, God.
Like, oh, you blew it.
What are you doing?
Oh, no.
Yeah. And so kind of ruined the reaction.
How did she react to that?
She just she laughed. I mean, she was
Yeah.
a good sport about it. But, yeah, there was a lot of stuff like that got taken out. But, you know.
Yeah.
Everybody, you know, they all, you know, had fun with each other.
Yeah, I mean, you said it was a blast.
Yeah.
Like, filming the movie was a blast.
It was great.
You can feel that when you watch it.
You really can.
Yeah.
You can feel the fun.
Yeah.
I think that's why it's so fun to watch. You can tell
Andrea Martin, you could, our assistant director Jack Hardy had been the photographer for SCTV up in Edmonton, and he said it was the greatest part of his life. And so Andrea Martin, you could just like name one of her characters, and she just
Oh, wow.
Just
just
do it.
start going
Just go.
5 minutes of improv. It was just beautiful.
Oh, fantastic.
But it was the first time Glenn and I had ever worked together where he directed me. So that was
Oh.
kind of interesting.
We're still here.
Wow.
It
worked out.
Yeah.
That was the first. But we were, you know, we were excited to do it. But we did have one.
Not like the first day. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is it. Our dream come true, baby. Oh, this is okay. Well, I think you sit down and you look at this Frankenstein coaster. She goes, well, what would a Frankenstein coaster be doing here? And I'm like, oh, God. I've made a huge mistake.
Well, because, you know, and we have this when we write together too, is that, you know, when you're married to someone, you don't have to go, excuse me, but I was just thinking that maybe you go, no, this is not right. What are we doing here? Come on, we can do better, you know, or whatever the thing is. You can say to your partner things that you have a shorthand already. So I think that's good, and sometimes not so good.
But then you have to be careful because you can have just a thing like that, and then everyone's like,
Yeah.
well, they're having a fight.
Like, oh God, here it comes.
And you can't also, you have to make sure you're balanced out, that you're not looking like you're showing favoritism.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's
You know.
interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
Have you guys on this, but in anywhere else, have you guys run into that problem? Because I've heard a lot of people like run into the problem of you don't necessarily let the executives know that your writing partner is also your partner, you know, because they'll.
It's more. It's harder as the actor.
Sure.
Because you just assume everyone assumes that I get the part because I am his partner. So I have to always, you know, I don't get an opportunity to be upset or mad or bratty or whatever, because I always have to sort of represent that I'm the most professional person there, and I want to, you know, always be kind and represent Glenn, and you know, so it is a different thing where, you know, and you're always kind of producing because I know what he wants, and I'm there to give him in great part what he wants. So you're always, and you're, you know, and a lot of problems come to me because I know the guy that can solve them, and people do resent that you're there a lot.
That's tough.
Or they don't want to say stuff in front of you because they don't want Glenn to know, or they wanted someone else to have the part, and they don't want it to be you, or whatever the thing is. And so you have to prove yourself that much more. But I do a lot of, when Glen and Jim have written for me, I end up doing a lot of the emotional heavy lifting. Because they know that I can maybe, like in Final Destination, I always say that my character is the emotional chorus. Those are young kids, and they're having reactions, but no one's really crying, no one's really sad. I mean, your friends are dead, and no one really cries. And I think that if you don't have somebody who's really responding to what's going on in real time, you don't feel it quite as much. And so those were the parts that were written for me more, to be the person who's telling you, yeah, we are really sad about this. This is really bad, or whatever it is. So it's complicated, but
At the beginning of this, Jim Wong comes to me and goes, what do I do as a producer? I'm like, what? I'm like, you stand around your video village and you talk to everybody, and when they say shit about me, you like listen and nod and then back me up. And then he goes, people say shit about me?
Fantastic.
Well, friends, that's a pretty good discussion on Black Christmas, I think.
I think so.
Though I do want to ask, so you've seen how this movie has taken on new lives as it was made, as it's come out. What do you hope for this movie? How do you hope for it to live on? How do you want other generations to approach this thing, if that makes any sense?
Glen's not on social media, but I am, and I love this time of year because this movie has such an interesting cult following. So it's not just like normal fans. I mean, the people who like this movie are like cult people.
Nuts like us.
Different. They're not like, so the kind of things that come back to me, especially about that character, I think she's, I have like a lot of, she's kind of big in the LGBTQ scene, there's something kind of, I don't know, about something about it. And so the things that come back to me for people who are fans of the film is really actually so fun. And I love, people do stitches of the character and what she says, and, putting all of her most bitchy, weird stuff together. So, and I'll show it to Glen, and we get a big kick out of it, that people, that it's been reinterpreted or taken on as a cult thing, and it brings it into an area that's fresh and really fun, and I think that has been really nice, and especially for Glen, and I don't want to speak for you, but to have had sort of a not great experience in the way that it came out, and having people of your generation rediscover it, and how you are seeing it and interpreting it, against the landscape, especially of all the modern stuff, and how it has a different meaning for you. It's really fun to experience it now through your generation's eyes and the cult people who enjoy it. So it makes us have a fonder memory. And when I watched it with you, and I was like, wow, this is a good movie, because it's hard not to see it through Glen's heartbreak. And so seeing you young kids and people who are different and are watching different stuff enjoy it has been really fun.
Yeah, no, when it came out, I was looking today. That Rotten Tomatoes score was 14%. It's
But they're idiots.
It's true.
I say that too, unless I'm like, look at that movie, got 14%. Fuck that guy. But, it's like all of us, it's what I always wanted to do from the time I was watching those Universal horror movies. Like, I want to do that. And then you get in and do it, and they didn't put up a fight here and there, or you get a 14 score. But then you see, like, IMDb now was like a 67.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Or Letterboxd, it's
Letterboxd is much higher.
Yeah,
Letterboxd
much
is a
higher.
great aggregator for audience score.
That's my daughter's.
Yeah, with all the kids, I think, and both Winslow and Greer are on it.
Yeah.
But you talk about the thing, I think, almost probably any horror movie, that's the one. Panned, hated,
Yeah.
and it's a masterpiece. And this isn't a masterpiece, but it does feel good to go. Okay, it wasn't that bad. We're not that bad. And there was some extenuating circumstances that I take the blame for doing them.
Sure.
But so, the fact that, like what Kristen said, that you guys are like, this isn't that bad, that's why we took up 4 hours of your time.
Never enough.
Apologizing.
No, God, no,
for-
don't apologize. We feel so grateful that you guys drove all the way out here
Yeah.
to record this with us and chat with us.
I
for
used
2
to
hours.
live in Moore Park, my first marriage.
Oh no, shit. Okay.
It's out there.
So then after that, I swore I would never cross.
You would, yeah. Likewise, my father said that he'd never go east of Winnetka. Ever
Yeah,
again.
yeah, that's hilarious.
Right.
Yeah.
I would like to end on one final little piece about you guys. Favorite holiday movies? Just a couple. Could be horror, could be anything else. What do you gravitate toward during this season of jolly cheer? Anything in particular?
Well, now Terrifier 3.
Yeah.
One of us.
Playing to the audience. on that one. Yeah.
Austin's like,
I haven't seen
he
it
hasn't
yet.
seen Terror.
I
Yeah, that's
haven't
right.
seen it yet.
That's right. No.
Well, Black
yeah.
Christmas is,
Yeah.
and then on the other side, it's a Wonderful Life. It sounds hokey, but
Sure.
Yeah, it's great.
and you know what? That's a horror movie.
Yeah.
That first 3/4 of that movie is like some of the darkest stuff that
Rough.
a father or people could think.
Yeah.
And, there are many times when I'll come downstairs and Glenn is watching a Charlie Brown's Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause it's great.
It's amazing.
He does. Glenn loves Christmas, and he gets completely into it. And he
Halloween's
watches.
better.
Yes.
Halloween's better.
But he has an interesting relationship with Christmas. I think you've seen that in this movie. But, he watches a lot of Christmas stuff.
Now, do we get to come back for Leprechaun 4?
Absolutely.
Just,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do the whole dang thing.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to sit that one out.
It'll just be your reactions
Yeah.
to it. Just
Yeah.
and it'll be a 6-minute episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Friends, thank you. Like
Thank
Cody
you,
said, thank you
yes.
for making the
Thank you,
trek.
seriously.
Thanks for caring
Thank you,
enough to
thank you,
listen
thank
to
you.
us
It's
blabber on.
It's our
absolute pleasure to have y'all out and talk about just weird, cool movies. It's the
Yeah.
best. We love it. And we love that you make them, and you still
Yes.
hopefully will make many more. That's what we want.
Thanks, hopefully.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah. Thank you guys. This was kind of you to invite us to do it.
Of course, our
Yeah,
pleasure.
again, it was kind of you to accept and to drive all the way out here.
Yeah. Four random dudes talking about weird shit. And we did not show you any body parts. So
No.
No, we didn't.
We're still recording though, right?
But now I got to go back and see, who's got what growth, and I'm going to be,
What are these weirdos doing?
and I'm going to be Googling it and writing you guys about it. Hey, did you know that's a?
yeah.
Because I'm that lady in the house.
Perfect.
Friends, listeners, watchers, thank
Yes,
you for
thank
tuning
you.
in. Let us know how much you just fucking love this episode, and we'll let these lovely people know how much you love them as well. So,
Yes.
And then go and champion the shit out of this movie.
yeah.
Yes.
As we've said on the show in the past. But
Buy
do
it.
again.
Buy it.
And if you
watch it.
didn't love the episode, don't tell anyone.
Yeah, no, never
Yeah.
speak again. Any
Good.
words.
Give us your address. We'll figure it out.
Austin will come find you.
And beat you with sticks.
Oh, okay.
Until then, bye. I think that's a legal gray area. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.